And that's what we're supposed to be reflectors of Christ.
A few weeks after I went to the midnight New Year's Eve service at True Faith Church, I was back at a regular Sunday service. This time, I was hoping to meet the family of Carol Waits, one of the two women killed in the Dr. J's shooting. They still attend the same church she was on her way home from when she was caught in the crossfire of a gang shooting. After the service, I met Janice Waits, the little girl who was in the back seat of the car when her grandmother was shot.
It's kind of like a 3-year-old type of memory, for me. Like, I think there was a dragon there, and it was kind of like a story from a fairy tale or an action movie. That to me is what my memory is. But as I get older and I realize that that's not exactly what happened.
Her second cousin, who was 7 years old at the time, shielded her with his body and was shot multiple times but survived. Janice Waits doesn't really remember that, but she knows her life would have been very different if her grandmother hadn't been killed. Janice seems to be flourishing. She's 18 now, a freshman in college, but says she thinks she'd be even more well-mannered, as she puts it, if her grandmother was alive.
From what I hear, she was very strict in certain places. Despite me being her favorite, I do see like me wearing more dresses, me being a lot more cleaner around the house.
The bigger impact was on her mom, who didn't want to do a recorded interview. They left San Diego after the murder and didn't want to come back until someone was convicted for the shooting. Eventually, someone was.
And this is him when he was little. That's my grandmother. Look, his long legs. He was not even a month old.
Ida Campbell is showing pictures of her son. He's dressed all in white, including white booties and a hat, and looks about half the size of the woman holding him.
When he was born, I had to take him back to the doctor. I remember it might have been 3 times in a week, and then 2 times they thought he had gigantism.
Now her son James Carter is 6'7", and she hasn't seen him in almost 2 years. He's in Folsom Prison up in Sacramento, serving a life sentence without parole for murdering the 2 women outside Dr. J's. He grew up with a mostly middle-class background. His grandfather was one of the first black police officers in San Diego, and his mother worked as a model when he was a kid. But as a teenager, Carter started spending time with people in the Skyline Gang, named after the neighborhood in southeast San Diego. Campbell says she isn't sure why her son started hanging out in Skyline. His dad's side of the family lived in southeast San Diego, but closer to Lincoln Park, which was rival gang territory.
I remember he came home one day with some red suede Nikes on. Horton Plaza had just opened up. And I was like, where'd you get, because I'm still on the alert of all this stuff, I'm like, where'd you get those shoes from? And they're like, oh, I got them from Horton Plaza. You cannot wear those shoes. No, you're not doing this. You're going to go out there and get shot. The usual conversation.
Red is the color associated with the Skyline Gang. Like a lot of parents whose kids end up in trouble, Campbell sees this moment as a possible turning point when she could have realized he was hanging out with the wrong people and changed the direction his life took. But of course, that's only in hindsight. Campbell says, thinking back on this moment, she wishes she'd right then sent him to live with family in Texas. But she wanted to be with him.
When you get into a crucial moment of your child's life, you really don't want to let it go for someone else to take care of it because they might not have the same love and mindset as you might have for them, But that didn't work out too good, did it?
Campbell isn't sure how police narrowed in on her son as the suspect in the shooting at Dr. J's. But when detectives first came to their home to talk to him, she says she wasn't worried. That's because she was his alibi. The shooting happened on New Year's Eve when a lot of people shoot their guns at the sky to celebrate. Campbell says that around midnight, her sister-in-law heard gunshots, called her house, and asked where Carter was.
She called and I got up and I said, well, wait a minute, let me go see. So I got up and went in there and he had my grandson on his chest and he was holding the phone like I said, he's asleep. You want me to wake him up?
She says Carter was sleeping with his son. Because it took so long for Carter to be arrested and convicted, he was home for the first 8 years of his son's life.
He raised that boy. Everybody says, oh, he did such a good job. He finished school early. He was going to college while he was going to high school. he's never had a record, he's never been to Jew, he's never done anything wrong, blah, blah, blah. But my son raised him. The first 8 years of a child's life is what sets their mindset. My son raised him. He did a very good job with him. He has not been able to touch his fingernail since he was 8, and he's 18.
Pretty quickly, Campbell started to realize the case against her son was serious. Police raided their home that spring after the shooting. And then more than 6 years later, Carter was arrested. He went to trial in 2011, and Campbell was one of the witnesses. In the trial transcripts from the case, you can see the prosecutor, Robert Hickey, doesn't want to dispute her story. Instead, he suggests that maybe she just doesn't remember the timeline of events perfectly. He points out she's been confused and given different answers about when things happened in the past. Carter was found guilty, but Campbell says she believes her son will somehow get exonerated.
I just want him to get out with the mentality and the personality he had when he went in. It's like somebody going to hell, coming back out of hell, and now they're back. Oh, okay, well, we're sorry, we made a mistake. So they put you back among the living.
Tomorrow, we'll examine the case against James Carter. Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.